Joining me now from Ramat HaSharon in central Israel is retired Colonel Miri, the director of the International Institute for Counterterrorism at Reichman University. Miri, good morning to you.
Shalom, shalom.
It's been almost an emotional pull this morning, waking up many to the news that the IDF had rescued one of its troops, one of its soldiers that was taken hostage into the Gaza Strip after the October 7th massacre, but also again waking up with that feeling of jubilation, but then to the realization that Israel is still 25 days engaged in war.
It's 200, I think right now, of both the 239 families who are still awaiting the same kind of reaction that every single one of us had. But Batya, think about it in this way. A terror organization not only declared war, enacted war, a genocidal attack, that part of it is the hostages. Israel has systematically, in a quiet way, it doesn't make it any easier, rescued one of the hostages. This isn't the manipulation that these terror organizations, specifically Hamas now, are trying to do to all of us. Hamas have tried to release now psychological warfare with a tape that I don't want anybody to see of 3 hostages that I'm grateful they're alive, but that's part of their psychological warfare. Israel is systematically trying to get to them. Hamas are trying to say that what they're doing is in any way okay. And I think that what we're seeing is that this isn't about haste. We are systematically going after Hamas infrastructure. We're systematically going and trying to get to the hostages. And the Hamas terror organization knows that, is scared, is trying to use its own civilians as the human shields and the hostages as an asset. And we're making sure that they cannot do so in a very complex way.
Absolutely. We are looking at live images at the moment on the screen of the Gaza Strip. We can see some smoke in the background as the fighting continues. Miri, to your exact point, we have not, and neither have many channels here in Israel, been broadcasting that video that you mentioned of the 3 hostages sitting there and placing blame squarely on Israeli Premier Benjamin Netanyahu for the situation. And again, as you mentioned, part of Hamas's psychological warfare. It's why we're not buying into it and playing those images. But again, the video of that contrast to the jubilation that we're seeing from the videos and from many leaders here in Israel speaking about the soldier that was rescued, it also perhaps bodes well in Israel's favor among its citizens, showing that no man is going to be left behind. And more so than that yes, we are 25 days into the war, and yes, progress is slow, but that means that it could perhaps be very strategic.
We're in a different war, and I'm not sure, Batya, that all of us always understand that. What happened on October 7th is continuing these 24, 25 days. This is a war that's going to be long. When we said it on October 7th, I'm not sure we understood the implications. This is a war which does have an aspect which is completely existential for us, and it's the combination of the idea that you can just brazenly, genocidally come in, murder so many people, take the hostages, and then try to turn it into the blame game on Israel. We have enormous resilience, strength, and capabilities, and we're using them now against the terror organization. We're using them to save our citizens, and we have the length and the breadth and the strength, both of the Israeli public, and in this case, I say sadly, well, maybe not sadly, the government of the decent world, even if some of the publics have shown enormous anti-Semitism. So I say that in that sense, as somebody who's Israeli, I am proud that we are doing what we're doing, that we're doing systematically, that we're trying to save civilian lives in the Gaza Strip, but that we're trying not to succumb to terrorism, that we're trying to make this a world where we actually take actions systematically to get to those hostages without the terrorists winning anything.
From a tactical perspective, and please excuse me, I'm not asking you to get into the mind of a Hamas terror organization, but surely releasing one by one the hostages is providing, as Guy mentioned, significant intel and information toward the IDF as opposed to releasing a group of them. It almost appears that apart from the psychological warfare, this doesn't benefit Hamas in any way, because the more information and intelligence that comes out from each of these individuals, the more precise and perhaps the better Israel is going to be at going in to rescue them.
We have to remember that Hamas is a terror organization, Batya. They came in as part of their murderous attack was to take these, as they'll call them, assets. They want to use these assets to get out people, terrorists that were put on trial and put on jail under law inside Israeli jails. There is no equivalence. This is the asymmetry in that sense of actually putting it on the same platform. Hamas are losing their cards. They're losing their assets. Not just their murderous attack should be enough, that ISIS attack that they did on October 7th, the taking of hundreds of hostages from every age. So when I look at it in the operation, this is the side where Israel, and I don't think that we're ignoring the world. I think that we're trying to save civilians in the Gaza Strip, both the hostages and any lives that are not Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. That what we're doing is, Batya, we're more in control, and that scares Hamas. We are showing that we can get past what they prepared for a decade as their defense to hold their assets. We're going in and systematically taking it apart. We're going into the system and finding one hostage. And my hope goes out and say, maybe another one. I don't know. They're holding them. I think that the fact that Israel has been exposing that when Hamas built this whole infrastructure, terror infrastructure, to hold the hostages, to take care that their terrorists would stay alive and their civilians above ground would be the defense, that I think that a lot of that is focused on the hospitals inside the Gaza Strip. It is the worst part. So here we are. We're more in control. We're very much taking the advantage. We're the ones on the initiative against Hamas terror, not succumbing to their psychological warfare, not allowing them to lead us on the road. Having said that, Batya, there's a big gap here between how we view it in Israel, how our allies, governments understand this, and the way that Hamas very much is trying to orchestrate a different narrative, a different idea in world opinion. And that one right now is a challenging arena.
Right. And speaking of the world, Israel obviously has many fronts to try and deal with here, but one of them being the fact that anti-Semitism as well as anti-Zionism have been on the rise worldwide amid Israel's war against Hamas following the October 7th massacre. At a Monday meeting with Jewish leaders, Biden administration officials vowed to make a plan within 2 weeks to counter the alarming increase of anti-Semitism at U.S. colleges and universities. To drive that point home, Israeli ambassador to the UN Gilad Erdan and his delegation wore a yellow Star of David at the UN Security Council meeting on Monday, bearing the message, "Never again." Those same yellow Jewish stars that had to be worn by Jews as a mark during the Holocaust. In Israel, War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz also addressed the issue, sending a specific message to Israel's Jewish brothers and sisters worldwide. Take a listen.
As I speak, our sons and daughters endanger their lives to ensure our survival, to defend our homeland and our families. They fight, we fight, for a future free of terror, a future free from Jewish fear. We owe it to the Jew in Auschwitz crying for help. We owe it to the university students scared to wear a Star of David or speak Hebrew. We owe it to over 200 hostages sitting in darkness with nothing but hope keeping them warm. We owe it to the children of Am Israel who deserve one day to live beside their neighbors in security and peace.
Miri, a major concern among Israelis, not just those with dual citizenship here, is the prospect of whether to stay or whether to leave. And why it's becoming such a difficult concern for many is the fact that anti-Semitism worldwide has really reached a peak in some places, estimating that it's over 1,000% of an increase. 1,000%, that's off the charts in terms of numbers. And I think what Israeli leaders worldwide are trying to do is to remind the world that while we keep comparing this perhaps to a second Holocaust, the difference is that we have the state of Israel.
As I'm sitting here and talking to you, Batya, and both of us have these accents. We came from other places. We came from those Jewish communities around the world. As I've been speaking to Jews, to Israel supporters over the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, endlessly, one of the aspects that I think is the biggest dissonance is that I feel safer as a Jew who was born in the United States, right now in Israel, under attack, sirens, my family is mobilized. It's my children who are fighting and my husband who is called up. And I feel that here I'm safer and more in control because that, oh my God, that anti-Semitism that in my lifetime I never thought that I would see in the United States of America, all over Europe. When we say rearing its ugly head, could any of us imagine this, that we're under attack and what comes out is the worst anti-Semitism ever seen? And as I said, our resilience, our strength, the strength of our Am Yisrael, as Benny Gantz said before, that's one of the things that's going to take us through this. We have the state of Israel. We are so not perfect. We have so many warts and pimples, and we are amazing as a country in our resilience and how we're standing up and not just fighting. The civil society right now, we have to put back together pieces. The 1,400 families who had their loved ones massacred that haven't even had funerals yet. Sat Shiv'ah, both Israelis and non-Israelis, Jews and non-Jews. This is part of our strength, and we need to see it for what it is. In its own way, Batya, I'm almost happy that when we say anti-Semitism, when we talked about it, and everybody was like, no, it's not there. Here we are. It is here. It is thriving in the worst way possible. Face it, people of the world. Stand up and talk about it. Don't allow the Jew to be the only thing that's allowed to be vilified in the world. Don't let this terror attack take you onto the wrong side.